I'm Corbin Scalander, and just here to do an interview today with Nothing Nowhere.
I am nothing nowhere.
The man himself. So yeah, I'll get straight into it. First things first, I listened to the album earlier today. Just had a quick listen to it a couple times, and the first thing that like really struck me was the kind of Linkin Park being a huge influence and everything like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's quite timely. Meteora turned 20 the other day, which is absolutely
Yep.
insane. I can
Yeah, we're
really,
getting old.
yeah, honestly, I mean, I'm 25 and I still feel old.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can really like hear you channeling them, especially on songs like Psychiatry. And you talk about how you wanted to create with zero outside influence. Linkin Park were like really staunch about that. They changed their sound through their career because that was what they wanted to make, not what the fans expected of them. Do you feel
Right.
like you're successfully doing that? Do you feel like that's something that you've done on this album?
Totally. I mean, I just approach music from it's like a personal pursuit for me. It's not a business venture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's an artistic pursuit. So, I definitely always, when I started Nothing Nowhere, I made sure to make it clear, like, hey, like I just want to make music for me and like
Yeah.
explore what I can come up with, and the genre is always secondary to the emotion. You know what I mean? And I think I've been really lucky to have like supporters and a fan base that
Yeah.
are kind of cool with whatever I do. I think like I said, like I think that the emotion and the honesty and the lyricism comes first, and then the sort of genre is just secondary. It's the package in which it's delivered. So it's been really cool, and I never want to get stale. You know, I want to be trying
Of
something
course.
new, like, challenging myself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really important thing to do. It's really good that you can like you feel like you can do that, because I guess a lot of people, it can feel like they're, when people come to expect one thing of them, that's the kind of, they're locked into that.
Yeah, exactly. That's a big issue with like rock music
Yeah.
and heavy music too. Like
Yeah.
it's great when fan bases are cool with like an artist expressing themselves, because I don't think any artist ever really wants to make the same album like
Of
over and
course.
over again, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the same, like, again, going back to Linkin Park, like, if they would have carried on doing the first two albums, it would have got stale after a while, you're right. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, just to kind of go down the line of you talking about emotion and channeling that into your music. Like, you said that about channeling sadness into positive aggression. Can you sort of elaborate on what you mean by that in sort of your lyrical content and the mood that you set with your albums and everything?
Yeah, I feel like I'm really lucky to have a positive outlet like music, like to put these sort of difficult emotions into. It's because if I didn't have music, or I didn't have like a microphone to scream into, I don't know where I would place these emotions. You know, it's instead of like self sabotage or resorting to substance abuse or something, it's like my guitar and the microphone's always there. So I'm really lucky in that regard.
Totally,
I
yeah.
think for Void Eternal, I've kind of struggled with anxiety and depression my whole life, like
Mhm.
clinically, like for a long time, and I think as I get older, I've had to grapple with some anger that I've been feeling of just years that were taken from me. And basically, Void Eternal was just me kind of screaming out all that anger. And yeah, and when you're done with it, you feel a little bit better. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally feel that. It's that kind of thing.
yeah,
You kind of get that aggression out as a therapeutic like form of expression, I guess. Um,
yeah, it's the best.
but
Right.
to kind of talk more about that aggression, I definitely felt like this is the most like in your face album that you've done. And you've got features on there from like Lorna Shore, Senses Fail, Under Oath, some of the most like revered post-hardcore and modern metal bands that are in the scene and have been in the scene for a while.
Right.
Do
Right.
do you think for yourself, do you think there was an element of like wanting to impress these people with your music, or do you think at this point, 5 albums in, that there's like an element of confidence that naturally comes with that?
Yeah, like on the confidence thing, I've like, if you're a musician, you can relate. Like, you always have sort of some level of self doubt. I feel like a lot of artists do across the spectrum of the arts. You know, you have that voice that says that, you know, you shouldn't be doing this or you're not good enough. And it took me a long time to finally get to a healthy spot where I could just be like, you know, like, I put in the time. I've been doing this since I was 12 years old. Like, I deserve that. I deserve to be here, you know? And I think so it's more of a celebration for me to be able to work with a lot of my idols, and you know, to grow up listening to bands like Under Oath and Census Fail, Silverstein, Fall Out Boy, and to have all of those bands on my record, it's really just like it's like the script for a movie. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's I don't even have words for it. It's amazing.
Was that kind of like was that a point for you when you were kind of maybe physically in a room or just like talking to these people? Was it kind of a point where it kind of clicked and you went, damn, like I'm doing all right?
Yeah, yeah. I think like I'm starting to get there, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, like just for years, just for my, I don't know, like certain instances growing up or whatever, I just have never had like an amazing level of self-confidence or self-belief. And that had to come with time. And yeah, it certainly helps when you have someone like Pete Wentz, you know, on your song and telling you that he loves the song. You know, it's really reassuring. And yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I'll be like, I was hanging out with the Under Oath guys the other day, and we were shooting a video for Venom off of Void Eternal, and I had a moment where I was like, oh no, we're just hanging out like as peers. I'm not at a meet and greet or something.
Yeah. And kind of like, I guess further down there, like you recently, I believe, mentioned on Twitter that you kind of came up playing in bands to like 3 to 5 people audiences in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
With the amount of growth that you've had, do you think now, like playing arena shows with the likes of Fall Out Boy, do you think that your performance style has changed?
Yeah, I think I've gotten a lot better at it. I mean, it's yeah, like it's sometimes when we start rehearsal, I'll go on YouTube and just look at old videos for like reference.
Yeah.
And I can't help but cringe at some of my old performances because it's, yeah, you think that you're doing a lot better than you are, but it's really, you know, it's like anything else. You got to put the time in, and the only way to get better at performing is to just do it more and more.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's to be playing in front of 15,000 people, like on a Fall Out Boy tour is, it's much different than playing at my local Knights of Columbus Hall in Foxborough, Massachusetts, to like a few people. So. But I think no matter what, like if you're being honest and you're you know, you're just giving your best effort and you're trying to put on a show, like that's all that matters. It doesn't matter if there's 3 people or, you know, 30,000 people.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I get it's all about the attitude going into it. Like, I guess if you're going into a show as if it's like a small home show, people have a much more intimate time and everything like that.
Totally.
Yeah. Do you
Totally.
do you miss that era at all at this point? Or
yeah, it's like a love-hate thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I miss the feeling of like me against the world, like, you know, like having a chip on my shoulder, like trying to prove myself, and I still do, like, even though I have, I have these bigger tours now and I have a lot of amazing features and things like that. I still have a chip on my shoulder because I remember what it was like to be in like a seedy little club in Providence, Rhode Island, handing out mixtapes to people and people throwing them in the trash, basically. So I think I'll always have that chip on my shoulder. But I do miss that kind of, but I definitely don't miss, 7 dudes in a van, sleeping in the van in the middle of a blizzard and waking up like with strep throat. I don't miss that.
Honestly, unloading. Honestly,
yeah.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you released the Nothingnowhere LP, but it was back in 2015, I guess. And like, despite that not being too long ago, really, we've seen kind of a marked change in the way that people find new music and they consume their content. Kind of like gone are the days of sitting down and watching MTV, writing down the names of artists you like from the videos, and then opening up LimeWire on the family computer.
Yep.
I kind of want to ask your opinion on that. Do you think that sort of organic growth as an artist, like going to places and handing out mixtapes, is still a thing that's possible today? Or do you think that this kind of scene has changed so much?
No, if I'm being honest, I don't. I think it would be a miracle if like like even touring, man. Like if you're just a band and all you do is tour and you're not active on the internet,
Yeah.
it's a massive disadvantage, you know. And I mean, love it or hate it, I guess you got to adapt to the change. As much as I wish that people would discover me on LimeWire, um, it's just not the case anymore. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. You just don't see, like, especially with something like TikTok, you just don't see that type of overnight like success
Yeah.
in any other pocket. But at the same time, you have to be careful because if you blow up overnight on something like TikTok, like you don't have that core diehard fan base that'll be there for the next thing that you do. So I think it's important to mix the new with the old. Like make sure that you're making personal connections with people,
Yeah.
and don't forget that music is like a visceral connection with your listeners. You know.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that personal connection is something that I think a lot of people are maybe missing.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's and that's another thing too with social media is like people start making certain types of songs like just for the engagement, for the clicks, and for that initial dopamine hit that you get when something starts to go semi-viral. And
Totally. Yeah.
that's cool, but it's also, it can be dangerous. So yeah, I don't know what the future holds, but it's interesting.
It would be interesting if anyone did. I think at this point, like the scene of everything is changing so fast, and
Everything's just going to be AI basically, I
yeah,
guess.
it's scary, man. It makes me worried for like a future career in music because I'm like, is some kind of algorithm going to be able to come up with like a much sicker riff than I can come up
Oh,
with?
absolutely.
Like, it's crazy.
I don't know. I mean, like, but then I guess like at the same time, it's like, does a computer genuinely understand depression? I don't know, probably
Yeah.
not, but who knows, you know?
Yeah, and even if it doesn't understand it, can it emulate like talking about it? I guess is
Yeah,
you know. So
crazy.
yeah. Oh, it's honestly before we get too scared and depressed, I'll move on. uh, so yeah, I kind of want to go back to what I was saying before, like about kind of influences and stuff like that. So just again, like after listening to the album, I kept really coming back to the idea that a lot of the influence comes from that kind of early 2000s like new metal alt rock kind of era, that sort of like Breaking Benjamin, Crossfade, Un Loco, The Matrix soundtrack kind of sound.
Yep.
um
Yeah.
and just I was in school myself at that time, and I remember the like total cultural event that was Collision Course by Linkin Park and Jay-Z, and
Oh
how
my God. Yeah.
honestly, and just like the two like really divided groups that were like at each other's throats was suddenly both enjoying the same thing. And
Yeah.
this album, it really has that. Like as much as I can hear Alexis on Fire and Blink, I can hear Tyler, Kendrick, Doom, Juice World. Like, did you grow up in both those scenes? Is this something that you're like is comes naturally to you, or do you think it's something you've discovered later? Either way, and incorporated that.
No, yeah, I mean, I discovered I mean, I started listening to heavy music and rap like at the same time. I guess I started listening to rap um before I listened to heavy music. I got into heavy music when I was probably like 12, but
Mm.
I remember listening to Eminem when I was like 10 or something, just like really, really young.
Way too young
And
for a lot of Eminem stuff.
wait, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, my mom did not like Eminem. No, and just yeah, like you said, like Doom. I was always really into Doom, and I was into De La Soul, Tribe Called Quest, like stuff like that. And then I got older, and I kind of got into like Dipset and Cameron and like Gucci Mane, and
Hmm.
these. I remember I had like a Hyundai Sonata car. It was like my first car,
Mm.
and I put these two 12-inch Sony Explode subs in the back. And I would just
Lovely.
like put on like Cameron or something and just like listen to rap as loud as I could. And I was that asshole
Yeah.
when I first got my license. But no, like you were saying for Collision Course, like I've always just loved like the combination of genres. I think that you get really unique stuff, and that's kind of what Nothing Nowhere was birthed on. I started mixing, I guess, emo stuff with rap stuff like in 2014, 2015, and I want to continue to explore those avenues throughout the all of Nothing Nowhere, but just do it in different ways. And I don't know. I just want to keep myself entertained, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds like. I mean, I guess you said this before, but it really sounds like you're doing this for you. You're doing it to for your own creative process and everything.
Yeah, because if you're not writing music for yourself, who are you writing it for? Like, are you
Yeah.
like I know Rick Rubin has a thing where he's kind of like, like when you're making music, the audience should be the last people that you consider. And it sounds kind of like, oh, like, I don't know if it sounds pretentious or anything, but it's kind of true in the sense that, like, why did you start making music? I mean, for me, and I think for a lot of people, it's like you started it because you had something to say and you had emotions that you wanted to get out. And that's just kind of like the philosophy that I've carried on throughout my entire career.
Absolutely, yeah. That can be quite refreshing to hear, I guess, in a state where there's a lot of music out there where, like, it's people striving to kind of beat that algorithm kind of thing. But
Yeah, it's dangerous.
yeah, absolutely, it's dangerous for everyone. I think it's just like for the creative sector. I think having a sense of like artistic integrity is important.
Yeah, for sure.
Just to kind of go down the line of questioning about the like production of the album and everything as well. You went into was it a restored barn that you kind of set up as a studio? Tell me more
Yeah,
about that.
I live on 10 acres, and the house that I bought had an old barn, and I ended up changing it into a studio. So I renovated it and turned it into a studio. So
Cool.
yeah, that's where the whole album was recorded.
Nice. It's funny. Like we're seeing a lot of artists do that. Even ones that you think would have sort of access to these like insanely fully kitted out studios and everything. People tend to be going more that DIY route and kind of self recording and self producing and everything. But why did you choose to do that? What was the kind of decision process behind choosing to record it all yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't like cities at all. I don't like being in cities. I don't like. I live in a town with less than 2,000 people in it on the Canadian border.
Cool.
And yeah, all my neighbors are just farmers, or the people who live near me are just farmers. They don't know the first thing, they don't listen to, like, I don't know what they listen to, but maybe John Denver or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I just that's me. When I started making music as a kid, I made it by myself in my parents' basement, and then when I started Nothing Nowhere, I made it in my parents' basement.
Yeah.
And I just never grew up going to studios or really caring about studios. And for when I first signed to a label, I did do the studio thing. I'd go to LA and I recorded, like, I recorded Reaper, and in LA I recorded Ruiner in New York City. But as much as I like that experience, I just think that it was missing that sort of home cooked kind of feeling. And I
Yeah.
just, yeah, I'm just extremely introverted by nature, and I don't necessarily want to hear like a road rage fight outside my window or some kind of like,
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It helps me focus, really.
Absolutely. I think like a lot of the thing is that sense of comfort that you get from it. So like just the environment itself, you're not feeling the pressure of like I've got to go in at 9 a.m. and then leave by whatever time at night.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. You got Taylor Morgan, who I believe
Yep.
is the Garden Avenue Music Collective.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you know Taylor beforehand? Is it like a new person?
Yeah,
that you
so
got
it was
in?
actually Taylor Morgan and Brody McKeegan. They're friends of mine, and they're both in Garden Avenue. They make really amazing stuff. Like, they produce for a lot of underground rappers.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I just met them through like SoundCloud back in the day, and I just basically had them up to my house. I had them, and I had my guitarist Blake. He plays guitar for me on tour. He used to play in Counterparts and
Yeah.
Gideon and 100th, and yeah, like it was just basically just us, like, and we just hang out, and I have like a original Xbox and like an N64 in there.
Oh,
We
yeah.
just play like MX versus ATV Unleashed and just like take turns on the computer. And
Amazing.
it felt like, you know, when you're growing up as a kid and you try and like make a little demo at your friend's house, that's literally what the entire process was like for Void Eternal.
That sounds perfect. That's like such a great environment because there's no,
Yeah,
like, you know, like you're saying, like no pressure. It's just like when creativity strikes, you feel like you can move 6 feet to the left and get going, you know, that kind of thing. Sounds great.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I feel like you can tell in the record too, like it just feels like natural and normal. It doesn't, like, nothing's forced. It's just anything that's on the record is just stuff that I wanted to make and that I had fun making.
How much kind of, if you don't mind me asking, how much kind of material did you sort of come up with from the album? Was there like a lot of stuff? Did you get stuff from the back burner, or was it all kind of
Yeah. I mean, I kind of notoriously, for my last record, Trauma Factory, I had upwards of like 90 songs that I had to choose from.
Yeah.
This one, I toned it down, but I think I have like 40 songs, which is still crazy. But, you know, I'm here at my house and I make music every day. So
yeah,
it's just kind of like, what else am I going to do?
I feel you. So I'll kind of cap this off. So I'll let you go and carry on rehearsing and everything like that. But just as like a final question, I can tell from the way that you talk and how you write that you're just a music fan. You know, you're a lover of music. Yeah. What are you listening to at the moment? Is there anything lesser known that you've heard recently that you think people should check out?
Oh yeah. Yeah, am I ever? Basically, if people are on the Midwest emo kick, there's a band called Ben Quad that I've really been into lately.
Yeah.
There's a hardcore band called Gridiron that I'm really obsessed with lately.
Nice.
This band Boundaries just released an amazing record recently. And then there's this other sort of like deathcore band called Tactosa. They're kind of like a metalcore band that I just think that they're unbelievable. Been listening to a lot.
Yeah, that's cool. That's fantastic. Great stuff. Thanks so much for sitting down with me. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it.